Okay, I think we should start. Maybe still people coming in because we just had a lunch break and we had already 3 days of full program. And I'd like to welcome you in the name of the Sino-German Agriculture Center and the Science and Technology platform of the center. My name is Eva Sternfeld, and I'm going to moderate this session. As I said, we had already a full program, and on the first day, the conference was opened by the 2 vice ministers, Minister Ma Youxiang from China and our Vice Minister Ophelia Nick. And I remember from the speech of Vice Minister Ma Youxiang, he mentioned the global challenges and that he would like to be also addressed by our Sino-German cooperation in agriculture. And one of the items he identified explicitly was soil health. And he also mentioned a global soil forum, which recently took place in Shanxi province in Yangling. And he was also one of the moderators from this global soil forum. And obviously also the Chinese vice minister, he was deeply impressed what we learned in this conference. And I only like to quote a few things which were mentioned all the time at that forum, that according to FAO, 1/3 of the world's soils are already degraded due to the combination of natural causes such as climate change and human activities, including land use changes. And on the one hand, soil degradation severely undermines the crop production and also helps to accelerate climate change and poses severe challenges to global food security and agricultural sustainability. But on the other hand, agriculture and food systems can also be part of the climate solution through a large-scale adoption of sustainable soil and land management practices, and also by enhancing carbon storage in soils. And these are topics we would like to speak today. And we have invited 3 distinguished scholars, 1 from China and 2 from Germany, who unfortunately can't be with us on site today because they are very busy and are far away from Bengbu, where we are today in Anhui province. Before we start, let me introduce our speakers. First speaker will be Professor PENG Xinhua. He is a professor at the Nanjing Institute of Soil Science of the Chinese Academy of Science. And his prior assignments included also a DFG research fellowship and a Max Planck research fellowship at the Christian Albrecht University in Kiel. So he knows, I think, Germany and the German soil also very well. And he has been also the president of the International Soil Tillage Research Organization and is currently the chairman of Soil Physics Society of China. And his main research interests are soil structure, formation, stabilization, degradation, and its functions on soil carbon sequestration, and that fertility and erodibility And in addition, he also works on hydraulic processes and driving carbon nitrogen biochemical cycling at the agricultural watershed. Then after we heard Professor Peng, we will hear Dr. Wiebke Niether. And Wiebke Niether currently works at the Department of Organic Farming at the Justus Liebig University in Gießen. This morning, we had already heard a colleague of Wiebke from the same department. Yeah, both are colleagues. And Wiebke does research in hydrology, ecology, and physiology of soil. And she was one of the key experts involved in the research role of soils in climate change mitigation, which was conducted on behalf of the German Federal Environmental Agency. And she will later introduce the findings of this research. And last but not least, we are happy to have Dr. Claudia Heidecke with us. Dr. Claudia Heidecke is an agricultural economist and has been working at the Thuenen Institute in the climate department since 2017 on issues of international climate protection and climate adaptation in agriculture. And among other projects, she is currently the project manager of the accompanying research of the HumusKlimaNetz or HumusKlimaNetz project, and which started in 2022, and she's going to introduce this project. And yeah, and first we will now invite Professor Peng, and I learned just from him that he's going to introduce a case study from Bengbu, from the soils we have here in Bengbu. He's very well acquainted with the situation in Bengbu. And please, Professor Peng, the floor is yours.
Okay, very thank you. Introduce. Sorry, I didn't got your name, but I would like to say that this Sino-German conference, small conference. I'm very happy to join this because as the conference president introduced, I spent 4.5 years in Kiel University for the postdoctoral study and granted by the Max Planck Fellowship and the DFG Fellowship. The second, I know you are many located in Bengbu. I have worked and now also work in the Bengbu, the region for the soil, the very special soil type. So I would like to take this chance to introduce my group work in this area. So I would like to share my presentation. So what's the time? It's 20 minutes for my talk. Is right?
About 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I record my time. Did you see my PPT?
Yes, very well.
So now is 12 past 2. So I have look. I don't know the. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
So my topic is deep cloud to improve the soil health of Zhejiang black soil. So this soil is locally in China, we call it Zhejiang black soil. Actually, for the international, it's called woody soil. For the soil classification, that means the soil is swelling and shrinking. And and then with the deep cloud application in Huaibei plain. So I come from the Institute of Soil Science and the Chinese Academy of Sciences. So today I would like to talk about the contents of my talk as a background first. So this black area is Sajang black area. I think the Bengpu is about here. So Longkang is about the west to Bengpu about 50 kilometers away. So Sajang black soil is located within the Huaibei plain. Is the south part of I think it's called the North China Plain. This North China Plain have two types soil. One is we call the Cao Tu. Cao is the yellow. The other is black. The two types soil. So Sajang black soil is about 4 million hectares of Arab land, called about 22% of North China Plain. Because it's located in south, little bit south of the plain, so rainfall and the temperature is higher, much higher than the north. In the north, the water is shortage, but in the south, you visit the sea, there is very flat. There have many lakes, very large lakes. So the groundwater is very shallow. Groundwater is shallow. So in Anhui province, Bengpu is located, Anhui province is 1.65 million hectares of the Sajang black soil. So this soil, we see it is black and Sajang. Black, they have two typical soil layers. One on the top is black, but the clay is very high, so heavy texture, and also high bulk density. The bulk density is larger than 1.3 gram per cubic centimeter. So this normally is much higher for the plow layer. Normally is about 1.2. However, black color, but no carbon. The carbon is less than 1.2. Importantly, the clay mineral is dominated by the 2 to 1 monomonilite. So if you know the monomonilite, that means when the soil is wet, they were swelling and very sticky. So the water will be very difficult to pass through the soil. The second, when it's dry, they were shrinking and they were cracking and the strong soil strength. So that's what we say that with a very poor soil structure, it's very hard to tillage. Wet is thick, dry is high strength, and also wet is very easily to happen waterlogging and drought. The Sajang, we say that is Sajang means the jiang. In Chinese name, it comes from the ginger. With kitchen, with Chinese food, we often use the ginger. So the shape is like the ginger, So the size is the sand. So it's with calculated congregations. The poor soil structure greatly limit crop productivity. So we find we find that we find from the soil we surveyed the soil different positions from Huaiyuan, Mountain, Guoyang. They also come from Bengpu. We find there are 4 soil properties. One is penetration resistance. If penetration is low and also the soil carbon is high, bulk density is low, this is the soil maize yield is higher. This will say that this is 4 factors affecting maize, but we couldn't find a good relationship between the soil nutrients and the maize yield. So this will indicate the soil structure. If we improve soil structure, they will improve soil health or soil quality, and then finally improve the soil crop production. The other problem for this region, in China, we have very large amount of straw resources. So in China, totally 1.5 100 million tons, but 35% come from the North China Plain, also from the Huaibei, the Huaibei region. This is the Zhejiang black soil. So in Zhejiang black soil, the cropping system is the maize and the winter wheat. So now you visit the field, actually just half the maize. So it's a seeding of the wheat. So these two crops contribute about nearly 80% of the straw resources. Most, because the straw in the past, maybe 10 years ago, the straw is burning after harvest, but now is forbidden because protect the environment. Nearly 32, yeah, 50, I would like this, 66% of straw directly return to field, and other maybe go to the gas or other utilizations. So main way is return to field. However, particularly when the maize, because the maize, the straw amount is high, and then the size is large. The also important is the temperature. Now we're going to the winter time. So temperature is low. So this low temperature will introduce the decomposition of the maize straw is slow. This will impact the growth of wheat. So this in the winter time is the wheat. There will the impact of the wheat growth. This data is come from long-term straw return and remove from also from the bamboo region. So you can see the wheat yield, if straw return compared to straw remove, the yield is most time is reduced. But you can see this is the rotational tillage. This is rotational tillage is only tillage about the 12 to 15 centimeter depth. This is for the local farm, the traditional tillage in this region. So this region traditional tillage, rotational tillage combined with the straw return will reduce the wheat yield. So that's how we say that one is a poor structure, one is how to solve the straw return. So deep plow is based on our past research. We can say solve this problem, two problems. So we build up the long-term field. So this is located at Nongkang farm. So the president lady mentioned that they visited yesterday. I'm sure they will maybe pass my field station. This is the road that normally come to this road to visit on my field side is rice field, and this side is the upland. Is way there and now is time. So we build this, the different cloud is a different tillage, straw return allowed, and the fertilization, and also we made has some of the cover cropping plot. So here we just say the four tillage are the tillage, low tillage, rotational tillage, subsoil, deep plowing. So for sure, the different tillage impact the bark density and the penetration resistance. So deep plowing, so we say there's a more than a 12 centimeter deep plowing. So this means that the return the turn over the topsoil and the subsurface soil. The top of the deep plowing, the subsoil soil will go to the top, and the topsoil go to the subsurface. This will significantly reduce the bark density. Also significantly, you can say this is the deep plowing significantly decrease the soil strength, and finally the increase the hydraulic conductivity, also and so the air permeability. This also show you the soil structure change. This is the low tillage, the low tillage deep plowing. They are deep plowing that the soil power size and the conductivity is much stronger than the other two tillage. So you can see the deep plowing they have straw and contributed large pores. This is a large pore size. You can the pore size distribution, large pores. This is the peak. This comes from the position of the straw. They also change the soil moisture. So when it's raining, the water rainfall, for the deep flow, they were going to deep. For the low tillage, the water will stay in the top. You can see this yellow is the low tillage, the blue is the deep tillage. You can see the average, the more clear, deep flow for the top surface is low, for the subsurface is higher. So that means deep plowing, they improve the water infiltration. In this very clay and swelling soil, the water logging stress is very important for the crop growth. We have two water stress percentage. One is drought stress. That means soil water content lower than the melting point. Water logging stress is the soil water content higher than the field capacity. So we find very negative relationship between the water logging stress and the maize yield. So very negative. That means the water logging is a very limited factor. We also go to the deep. We find the soil strength. Soil strength is for the weight, negative. There's a very dry, or soil strength is negative impact the weight strength, yield. Water logging, as I mentioned before, last slide is the for the maize. So in the Sino-German black soil, they have different factors impact different crop growth. For wheat, is soil strength. For the maize, is soil aeration or water logging stress. The second, I would like to say this straw. If we use the deep plowing, that means they will distribute the straw go to subsurface. So this figure, we collect the straw just after tillage operation. Then we collect the straw after washing the soil away. Then we can find you can see the straw distribution. So low tillage most located in the surface, also the low tillage, but the deep plowing, the many straw go to the subsurface. That means they will increase the straw distribution space. They also reduce the accumulation of the straw. So that will help to the weight growth. We find the soil stock, even in the top top, the plow layer, deep plow layer, the carbon is low, but for the deep subsurface from 10 to 40 is a strength increase. Totally from the top 40 centimeter, actually carbon stock is increased by the deep plow. We also compare the straw return and the straw remove and the same tillage treatment. So low tillage, littoral tillage, subsoil, the ore and the straw return the decreased yield compared to the straw return. But the deep plow is on the other way, it's increased. Oh, sorry. And then if we look at the weight and the maize yield, there's from the 17 to 22, the 6 years, you can see the weight yield and the deep plow is most year is significantly increase about 10% for the weight year. For the maize, some year is no difference, but the very low year is significant, is much higher improved by the plow. That means low yield year is for the maize because is rainfall is very high, is water logging, is stress play function. So that means if the water logging, deep plow improves a good yield. Okay, we also meta-analysis for this region. Straw return combined deep plow for the North Chala Plain, the most improve the carbon stock. For the low tillage, perhaps they improve the top surface, but for the deep tillage, mostly improve the subsurface. But finally, deep plows improve more carbon sequestration. Of course, finally they increase the crop yield. Okay, so based on our this years, we propose we would like to construct thick used and fertile plowed layer for this region. So we, in order to solve these two problems, the compaction or the low carbon and the adverse effect of return straw to the crop, so we build a thick and fertile plow. We use the deep plowing and the straw returning, and also because the straw needs to help decomposition, we also develop the microbial agent to help straw decomposition. So this is our the technology. So that you can see the conventional tillage, this profile, this is our proposed technology. You can see the straw and the profile. This is very we say there is like a spongy plow layer. So the spongy plow layer like a very loose plow layer. So the water will easy infiltration and good aeration. Also for tillage is higher. Of course, as you see, the penetration will reduce, the carbon is increased, crop is increased, as I mentioned before last episode. So based on this technology, we introduced to the local farmer. So we train the local farmer. This is the Longkang conference meeting. This is me. This one. This is the vice director of the Longkang farmer. So we train the local farmer, and also we demonstrate our technology to the local farmer. So this is me. This is my students, and so in past several years, we applied our technology in this region and improve the yield, and also of course improve the income for the local farmer. Also, this we get some of the China TTV, CCTV, and the Anhui TV, the lady is the vice president of Anhui with my field. So I introduce why I do in this region and help that. So my conclusion, so deep plow effectively reduce the bark density, increase the water content, air permeability, improve the nutrients mitigation and the load deterioration. Of course, some I limited by the time, I didn't go to detail. So mostly increase the crop yield. So actually increase the wet year is higher than the maize year. And the deep plow is very suitable for the southern black soil in this region. Also, the soil resource is very large in this region. So soil return often reduce the weight and the traditional no-tillage tillage. However, if you use the return tillage combined with the deep plow, can solve the problem. And so and then if you want to make the straw decomposition faster, we use the microbiology agent. So we propose the thick and the fertile plow layer construction was proposed, and then we are limited this straw with the elimination. We will limit eliminate structure limitation of fertilize the plowing layer, reduce the adverse effect of straw return to the crop, and maintain the high and stable crop yield. This pattern is now widely and well applied in this region. So my presentation is over. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Peng. May I ask you please stay with us until the end of the session after we heard the two presentations by your German colleagues? Do you have time? I hope so.
Yeah, I try.
Because I guess there is some questions because to my limited understanding of soil science, there's different schools of no tillage versus deep plowing, and and I'm looking very much forward to the discussion. And there's also but let us discuss later, maybe also between the colleagues, and first give Dr. Niether the floor to introduce especially also the impact on soil management for climate mitigation.
Yeah, I hope if you have questions, ask now, because I have another meeting.
Okay, then I would say we first have a short discussion, 5 to 10 minutes on your presentation, and then we go on. I mentioned that as well. I have to say I'm not a soil scientist, but I attended this conference in Yangling, and almost every Chinese presenter, he spoke about the so-called Lishu experiment, and Lishu is a county in Jilin province, and as far as I understood it, it was like use lighter machines, leave the straw on the fields and things like that. And I don't know what's your take on this, but maybe also the other experts can jump in. Yeah. Yeah, Professor Peng?
Yeah, sorry. I just got the. Can you repeat your question? Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. I think you know the so-called Lishu model or experiment, because every
Yes,
soil
yes.
scientist I heard in the Yangling Global Soil Forum from China, they mentioned this, and it's highly recommended. And it's a county in Jilin province in northeast China, where they practice this method with using lighter machines and no tillage and living. So I think there is some contradictions in the
yes. So thank you. That's a good question. Lisu moss, we say that Lisu moss is for the black soil in northeast China.
Yeah.
So in that region, Lisu, Jilin, west of Jilin, is the climate is very dry, a little bit dry. So the winter erosion is serious. So for the dry and the winter erosion is a problem. So we would like to Lisu moss want to the conservation tillage, no tillage, and the return the straw, cover the soil surface, protect the soil erosion, not erosion. So Lisu moss is right for the dry and winter erosion region, but for us, for the South China, I think the Zhejiang black soil, you see the low erosion, not dry, there's plenty of water. So this region, if you go to the low tillage, there were problem. You can see our work. So you can see this, the black color is low tillage. The all is lowest yield compared other tillage. So this is not applied. So the conservation tillage, I think most important depend on the local climate condition. If it's dry, the region is dry, and the erosion is high, I would like to ask a conservation tillage.
Okay, thank you. And are there more questions? Mrs. Heidecke, could you read it, because I cannot? Mrs. Heidecke, Dr. Heidecke, could you ask your question?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for this very interesting presentation. I have just one quick question. In Germany, we sometimes have also the discussion and the wording deep plow for plowing up to 90 centimeters, so even twice as much to break soil structures and also to get more carbon deeper into the soil. Is there a discussion about deep plow measures also in your region? Thanks.
If you go to deep, I think this need much energy. Actually, I don't like to recommend that. So for it depends on the soil profile. So this soil, I at the beginning I introduced one is clay. I know some German soil is clay, and also bark density is high, but for this, I would focus on the Zhejiang black soil is clay, bark density is high, and water logging. I would like to encourage deep plowing. If you go to the other region, maybe it's not. Generally, deep plowing can increase yield because they prepare already fix the plow layer. That means the crop roots grows go to deep, can take more nutrients or resources from the deep layer. For Germany, I know some soil like this, they will use the deep plowing, but much deep is also have the same problem, even more serious.
I have another question.
Yes, welcome.
Eva?
I think first was Malte. Okay.
Okay. No, have you actually measured erosion of the soil, or is it just an assumption?
Yes. In this southern black soil, erosion is very low. You can negligible.
Yeah, okay. We have two more questions. So many questions.
Yeah, welcome.
Okay, two.
Yes, okay. Thank you very much, Professor Peng, for the interesting presentation. Just a brief question, because we had yesterday the chance to visit Long Guang farm, which was quite nice. And we were seeing that they're actually doing wet rice plantation. So yeah. I wanted to understand, what is what plants did you grow in summer in your experiments? Like, what is corn and wheat? Like wheat in winter and corn in the summer, or was it combined with rice? And then the question in addition, if it was wet rice, because if yes, that would have explained the soil congestion.
Yeah, good question. Actually, yes. You visit Longkang. Actually, my field is also is located in Longkang. Maybe you passed my field. Longkang is actually close to the Huaibei River. We say that with the Huaibei River. So the irrigation, the water is available. So if this is actually south of the China North Plain. So rice can get a higher profit compared to the maize. These are both the summer crops. In the winter time, that's the same, is the weight. So if the irrigation water is available, the farmer like to plant rice. However, this is limited, very limited area. If you go to North China, is quite a few. If I mentioned that Guoyang, you go to North, and the irrigation water is limited. The only maize or soybean or peanut. If you go to South, like a Yangtze level, the more rice you can see. But if for the rice and the wheat cropping, rice and I mentioned that rice wheat cropping system, the wheat yield is lower than the wheat yield of the wheat maize cropping system. Do you understand this?
Yes, I understood it. But maybe once again, the question: the summer crop was always rice for both comparisons.
No. The summer is rice or maize or soybean or peanut. But the winter time is the same, is the wheat.
Okay.
So the two cropping system. One is winter wheat, summer rice. The other is winter wheat, summer maize. This is the two popular cropping system.
Okay. Then there's one more question. Here.
Okay, there's one more question in the chat. Can I use this microphone? There's one more question in the chat from Rita Merkler. How about, I don't know if that was answered already, but I'm posing it again. How about water erosion in the south of China when applying deep plowing?
Oh, yeah. We say that this region is very flat. Very flat. You can't say. I think it's very difficult to find the small hilly mountain. But if you go to the Yangtze level, we say the water erosion is high. So I think if it's erosion, I would like to just maybe cover the surface is better. But you can encourage the deep plow.
Okay. Is it on? Is it on here?
Yeah.
Can you, the microphone?
So
Which one? Okay.
I would like to explain one sentence. Deep plow maybe will cause the soil structure loose, but I think the rainfall, if it's very late, is not happened at the rainfall and the deep tillage happen not at the same time. This I think deep plow is okay. If the deep plowing is much earlier than the rainy season, I think it's okay. No, I guess it doesn't cause much water erosion because it depends on the structural stability. Do you
Can you hear me? No.
no?
Okay. Then thank you very much, Professor Pang. I think we have to move on now because of the limited time. And thank you again for this great contribution. And you saw it gave a lot of, raised a lot of questions. Thanks also for the discussions. And we move on to Wiebke Niether.
Okay.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning to the people in Germany, and good afternoon to the audience in China over there. I want to talk about the role of soils in climate change mitigation, according to a report we just published this year, or beginning of the year. And first, to come to some impacts and pressures on agriculture that we had. These are pictures from Germany from the last year, actually. We had fires in forests. We had dry riverbeds due to the drought in the years before. On the pastures, we had no pasture production anymore at the end of the year. So the animals were just going out for a walk. And also the crop production was really reduced due to the drought in the last years. And on the other hand, we have other pressures like flooding, heavy rainstorms, flooding the soils, the water can't infiltrate. The animals are outside on a swimming pool almost. Crops are destroyed by heavy rainfall, and a lot of erosion of arable land was seen. And this has not only an impact on the agriculture, but also some consequential damages on when the mud is just destroying the streets and the railway stations. In the topic of climate change, we are looking forward to have some more extreme weather events. Here are some curves on the pre-industrial weather that we had before, and now after global warming, we are expecting more small changes on the cold side of weather events, but extremely more heat events, and also very hot events will increase. And emission reduction, so climate change protection, can follow three principles. The first one should be avoidance of emissions. That is the best way to save our climate, but it's not always possible. So mitigation could be the second step, reducing climate change impact. And the last one could be compensation, but I don't want to focus here so much on this now. Mitigation can be done by soils. Soils have a great potential to sequester carbon from the atmosphere. Here are some numbers on the global, the EU, and also the German level. I'm sorry, I don't have the numbers for China right now. The potential of carbon sequestration in the soils, but you see we have a great potential to store carbon from the atmosphere, even more in the soils than in vegetation, and that what is stored in atmosphere right now. How is the carbon coming into the soil? We heard it before in the presentation, by the straw incorporation, or by here we saw it before also by the deep plowing. But usually carbon sequestration takes place by CO2 uptake from the atmosphere, by crops, by photosynthesis, by the root production. First, we have organic matter input by litter, by crop residues, by manure application, but by the roots, we have a much higher input of carbon in the soil by root formation and root litter residues. And finally, root exudates, like those components that are exudated by roots that stay in the soil and even in lower soil depth. And this follows humus formation. And when we look at in a circular way, we have the organic matter input on the left side to the soil by the plants. We have a carbon sequestration in the soils, but finally, usually we have also organic matter decomposition, and the carbon comes back to the atmosphere, and so it all comes to an equilibrium. Usually, all soils will reach an equilibrium after a lot of carbon input, and usually the effectiveness of carbon sequestration is much higher in the beginning of a depleted soil, of course, than after a lot of years of input of organic matter. And the equilibrium between organic matter input and seed degradation relies usually on the structure of the soil, like soil aggregates, separate organic matter and decomposers. That decomposition is not that easy anymore. Stabilization of carbon by clay minerals, and to have C components that are less easy to decompose. Nature-based solution for improving soil sequestration. I looked for a definition of what are nature-based solution, and I found this one that we also put in the report: locally appropriate adaptive actions to protect, sustainably manage or restore natural or modified ecosystems in order to address targeted societal changes such as climate change mitigation, while simultaneously enhancing human well-being and providing biodiversity benefits. So nature-based solution follow the principle to be nature-friendly, and that means beneficial for biodiversity, water quality, air quality, soil biota included, and to be climate-friendly, and that means the total climate impact should not be exceeded when reducing carbon from the atmosphere by other emissions, for example, N2O, laughing gas, or methane, and no leakage should take place. That means emission at another place when reducing in one place. We made a list of the most common measures that can be used in agriculture, and we tried to order them, or to give them a ranking in their nature-based solution fit, and in their soil organic carbon sequestration potential, and also in the co-benefits they provide versus the trade-offs. They might also provide trade-offs like other forms of emissions. And the main measures we show here could be agroforestry in the different forms of silvo-arable or silvo-pastoral, mixed crop livestock systems that my colleague presented in the morning, use of cover crops, crop residue incorporation, crop rotation with legumes, mulching or applying compost or applying crop residues can be one option, prevention of land take, and the list goes on. Improved crop rotation, buffer strips, reduction of compaction, and the use of other inputs like nitrification inhibitors or other critical external inputs. And I don't want to go too deep to this table, and just showing that improving soil sequestration can be seen from a field up to a landscape or a territorial scale. I tried to order it. We have the impact on carbon sequestration potential and total climate impact on the y-axis, and on the x-axis coming from the agronomic or field measures to systemic approaches, and finally to land use changes. All of them might have beneficials or drawbacks, especially in the implementation. On the agronomic and field management side, we have what I mentioned already before: compost application, organic mulching, crop residue management, incorporation in the crop rotation of legumes, improving the crop rotation in general, cover crops, reduce tillage to improve the carbon stored in the soil here. We heard it just before that also deep plowing can be an option, but usually in general the reduced tillage might be the option. On the more systemic approaches that really can change somehow the farming management or the territorial management, might be organic farming, mixed crop livestock systems, cropland to grassland conversion. That's already a big impact on the land, and agroforestry or hedgerow incorporation. And finally, as the biggest impact, the revetting of peatlands and organic soils to store more carbon in the soil. When promoting climate-friendly soil measures, there are some things that have to be considered. The measures have to be prioritized on what is the impact and on what scale, like land use changes and land conversion are the biggest impact and should be considered on the first. Systemic approaches can be difficult. For example, the implementation of organic farming can be legally difficult for a farm to change. And prevention measures to maintain existing stocks have to be considered, to store what it is available, to keep it. And always what I said before, the equilibrium has to be considered, that one day soils will reach this equilibrium, and sequestering more carbon will be very difficult. The application of external inputs like straw from another site, mulch, or other external inputs like compost can have mixed impacts on the soil, on the quality, the quality of, for example, compost can be very, very critical, and also the use of nitrification inhibitors have to be considered very, very deeply. Finally, we have to recognize permanence of the carbon that is stored, and this permanence may mean a long-term storage, more than 10 years, more than 20, 30 years in the soil, up to 100 years. Permanence, of course, in the term of until whenever, but we should talk about long-term storage to keep it in a frame we can oversee. And this is also difficult, that especially agronomic measures on the field scale can be returned very quickly. And also leakage and saturation have to be considered. And finally, the total climate impact, like the other emissions, the biodiversity, water and air quality of the soils when using all the measures. I just want to show a short example from agroforestry, how agroforestry can be an option to increase soil carbon sequestration. And for all people who are not firm with the term of agroforestry, we have silvopastoral systems with animals grazing within trees, like here in this orchard, or we can have big fields of crop production with tree strips in between, trees for timber, fruit, or biomass production. And here, this is a picture of a German landscape where we have already some, not strictly agroforestry system, but small woody features like tree structures within the landscape, like linear features, the greens here, some patchy structures, trees that are more in groups located on fields or on field sites, and some additional features that are also patchy or linear. And all these small woody features are already in the German landscape. Here's a picture of Germany on the left side first. We see the brown, light to dark brown should be the additional features. And on the big scale, you can't really see it. It's more green for grassland and yellow for cropland. But when we go in deep, we can see that there are already some of these patchy or linear woody features. And including this agroforestry features in the calculation of carbon that is stored in German agriculture, we can increase the numbers of the German whole field because we have first the input of the above ground biomass of the trees that can stay for a long time, but also the trees with the big roots and the deep roots can increase the carbon that is stored in the soil dramatically. And we made some calculations of how agroforestry in German landscapes can increase the carbon that is stored in the carbon sequestration. For example, 3 scenarios that we calculated. 1% of the agricultural land is converted to agroforestry, up to 10%. And when we see this, especially with the graphs on the left side, when cropland is implemented with hedgerows on the side, we can increase by agroforestry, by hedges, the carbon sequestration potential, and this can lead up to 10% of total agricultural greenhouse gases in Germany. Finally, soil carbon has an impact, of course, on the soil health, and this can improve sustainable soil functioning. Just to shortly give an overview, what is soil health or soil quality? It means the productivity of a soil, including the interaction of humans and soil, and is part of the environmental quality concept. So from the soil health to the plant health to the human health. And it's a dynamic approach, including the chemical, physical, and biological aspects of a soil. And we see the soil organic matter plays a key role in the soil functioning. For examples are the water infiltration, storage, and water supply of a soil is impacted by soil organic matter. Soil organic matter also improves the nutrient storage, supply, and cycling, and biological activity. So carbon sequestration and humus formation, soil organic matter in the soil is super important. We see it here on an example. A soil without C input and a soil on the right side with a carbon input by compost. we already see the soil structure is very different, and also by analysis, chemical properties changed by nutrient retention and soil fertility. And the same soils we see here after a heavy rainfall. Also, the physical properties changed of these soils due to the carbon input by the compost. On the left side, without the compost, we see the water can't infiltrate, and on the right side, the water can be removed by infiltration, can be stored for long term in the soil, and the production can go on. So the soil is the base is one statement I found, because it's building resilience and maintaining yield. Healthy soils will help to good yields and resilience building, so maintaining yields over time. And so I just want to show here the report that we made, the role of soils in climate change mitigation by my colleagues, and colleagues. And this is also free for download, and you can find the link here. And that's my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Niether. This morning, your colleague also showed some of the photos we saw now in your presentation, and especially from the flooding. Only I like to mention, he mentioned this happened in your research farm, and all the over 35 years cultivated organic soil was just poured down the road by this terrible flood, and it happened once in a year. Anyway, I think keep your questions in mind, because we still have one presentation by Dr. Heidecke, which I think fits very nice to this topic. And then maybe, if there's questions to Dr. Niether and Dr. Heidecke, we still have some time to ask the question. But there's one question still from
Xinhua.
Dr. Peng.
Yeah. So, Dr. Wiebke, what's the interaction between the agro-crop and the forest? I saw it and you saw from the photo.
Okay. The last picture I showed is the agroforestry system we implemented after this heavy rainstorm, when all the soil from the same field that we saw in this picture was just removed by erosion and run down the hills to the next village. And the idea of the tree rows is now to reduce erosion by stopping heavy rainfalls, by helping infiltration to the soil due to this permanent cropping of the trees. So
the tree
two effects.
Is the tree is mainly reduce the erosion.
The trees should reduce the erosion, of course. Yeah, wind erosion also, but also the water erosion, because it's a slightly slopey area, and improving infiltration on the one hand, but also reducing it by just stopping the rainflow.
Yeah, does the tree shed impact the labor crop growth?
Yeah, that's one of the trade-offs we are working on. That shading, of course, is a big impact on crop production. That's why the trees are in a row in the north-south direction, so the shading impact should not be too much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then I would say thank you very much for your question, Professor Peng. And now we move on to Dr. Heidecke. And she is going to, her topic is measures for soil organic carbon sequestration, farm model and demonstration project, HumusKlimaNetz. please.
Yeah, hello. Thank you very much for the invitation, and thanks a lot also to the two presentations by the previous speakers. Yeah.
Yeah, now we have full screen.
Now
yeah.
you can see the full screen, yes.
Yeah.
I'm happy to present today into this group a new project started last year in Germany, the HumusKlimaNetz, which is also fits nicely to the discussion we are currently had with the other two presentations on measures for soil improvement, specifically soil organic carbon sequestration. From the Thunen Institute, we are a research institute in Germany, a federal research institute to the Ministry of Food and Agriculture in Germany. From the Thünen Institute, we are in charge of research following this project, and I'm happy to work here with a group of colleagues. There are different disciplines here involved from the Thünen Institute in this project, so soil scientists, but also economists to evaluate measures from the economic side to have the full picture then in the long run. And here maybe this summarizes also a bit the discussion that we already had. Soil organic carbon, specifically humus, can serve as a natural carbon dioxide sink also, and thus contribute to climate mitigation. However, there are a few things that are decisive, specifically if we talk about carbon sequestration and climate mitigation, which is the measurability of carbon sequestration, how to find good measures and soil samples that can also for the long run prove that carbon has been sequestered, and that you all know that carbon sequestration takes a long time also in the soil. Also my colleague here from Germany, Wiebke Niether, already mentioned the permanence of carbon sequestration, which is decisive in measures. We also have a long discussion about the additionality of carbon sequestration and measures, so whether there's a saturation in soils, but also that an additional benefit needs to accompany the measures, and that it really has to be an additional effect on carbon mitigation in comparison to previous measurements and management practices on the field. We also need to avoid leakage effect or avoid displacements. For example, if you improve carbon sequestration by putting organic fertilizers on a soil, but then at the same time reduce in other fields due to displacement of organic fertilizer, for example, then in the overall picture, you don't really see this climate mitigation effect. And altogether, also from a socioeconomic picture and from an economic approach for climate mitigation, cost benefit always plays a big role where to spend your money and for what benefit. So also measures for soil organic carbon need to be cost efficient to have like a rollout also in the society. And with this in mind, we started the HumusKlimaNetz project, which is a model and demonstration project. So it's rather focusing on knowledge transfer of carbon sequestration measures in Germany. It's a project funded by the Federal Ministry of Food and Agriculture via the Federal Agency of Food and Agriculture in Germany. And it's primarily coordinated by the big two farmers associations in Germany, the German Farmers Association, the Deutsche Bauernverband, and the Bund für ökologische Lebensmittelwirtschaft, more the organic side, which is also a new approach in Germany to combine conventional and organic approaches, management approaches, and get farmers together from the two management practice sides to really discuss what can be installed in the for the long run. What can we learn from each other? Which measures have improved on which soils, and so on. And you also see here the broader setup. So we have a big coordination team also for data and for advisory on the farms, but we also have individual farm advisories taking place along the run of the project. And as I mentioned, soil organic carbon sequestration takes quite a while. We have set this project up hopefully for the next 10 years to be able also to see in 10 years' time the climate mitigation benefit of the project by soil organic carbon sequestration. In this map, you see that we try to get the full picture of Germany. You have the blue dots here are all conventional farms, and the green dots are the organic farms. And we try to select this these different 150 conventional and organic farms from all over Germany with a multi-criteria approach to really reflect a representative picture for farms for arable farms in Germany. So the focus is on mineral soils, on arable farms for soil organic carbon, but with a whole picture of soil types, regional coverage, climatic characteristics like precipitation, but to also have different farm types of arable farms included in the network, and to have different groups of organic and conventional farms working together on different measures. And to set up this picture, we use this optimization approach with this multi-criteria analysis to really have this representative picture, but also to have a transparent selection of farms, as we had around 500 farms applying to be part of this network, and we were only able to fund 150 farms for the project. And here in the dots in the picture, which are empty, you see all the farms that have applied for the project but not have been selected, and the blue ones are the conventional, and the organic dots are the organic farms for our project. If we have a look at the characteristics now, how we start, we see that all over Germany we kind of have similar farm sizes between organic and conventional farms. However, specifically in the eastern and northern part of Germany, where we have a lot of very large farms as well, some conventional farms break a bit the picture. So we have also very large specific farms for the eastern part of Germany included in different climate soil zones that we established for the project. This is another picture kind of characterizing a bit what we are working with in the next 10 years. So we have a representative picture of farm sizes in Germany. We are working around 60 to 100 hectares normally on average, but have like a wide variety across Germany. And also the precipitation range is kind of reflected here with different climate zones that we are coping with, also with different soil types in the project. So now for our focus in the HumusKlimaNetz from a scientific point of view is that we, besides helping to set up this network from a scientific representative view for Germany, we have been working also on a selection of measures and calculated compensation payments for these measures. As I mentioned before, the socio-economic aspect of measures also is highly important to be able to really have this knowledge transfer and also this take up of measures by farmers in the long run. And yeah, these of course take up a lot of measures that have been also presented by Mrs. Niether, but are then specifically focused on the criteria that we want to have in the project. We also have soil samples that we take along the project. So the first ones are just being taken. So I'm not being able to show any specific results already today, but we will take 2 to 3 soil samples in the time of the 10 years and very broadly across the different hectares we have. We currently have around 3,000 hectares that will be taken in Germany with soil samples, and then also we'll start a modeling of soil organic carbon sequestration with the model Route C for the whole of Germany to be able to also already predict carbon sequestration rates for the next 10 years. We will be calculating the costs of measures specifically for different farms, but then also discuss a benchmarking of farms with each other. So to see this measure has improved or has been proven to be efficient for this farm, but maybe not applicable for another farm. We will discuss a lot with farmers in the coming years on the establishment of the measures, but also the acceptance on ways to improve measures, and further on. We will also already started discussions of carbon farming, which is an approach in Germany often related to also business models with carbon sequestration for climate mitigation issues. And so we are trying to get farmers' opinion also bottom up and see how this discussion can be also included in our scientific recommendations. And what we found important, which has already been mentioned before, that soil organic carbon measures always have to be taken with a broader view. So there might be also other greenhouse gas emissions arise with measures specifically on the soil level, either nitrate oxide or also even methane emissions if you apply more organic fertilizer or fertilizer from other sources. And this needs to be evaluated in this broader sense. So we are trying to develop a toolbox for that, and I will go on in more detail on that as well. For the selection of measures, it is important that you also from a broader perspective, to have specific funding opportunities to fund these measures. And we started to have a look at agri-environmental measures from the Pillar 2 of the Common Agricultural Policy, because there a lot of measures are already subsidized for European farms that enhance carbon sequestration also on farms. So we took these into account and looked for region-specific flat rates in line with the measures that are already practiced in Europe for that, and then have different variants, especially for different management practice, but also to distinguish between conventional and organic management in terms of the costs and of the yield losses that might come with the measures ahead. And what is also important from a German taxpayer's view is that we exclude double funding of measures. So you really have to prove that this measure is not funded elsewhere already when we fund these measures through the project. But then we can, on the one or the other hand, find solutions that different measures are really established throughout Germany for carbon sequestration and then climate mitigation effects. This is, just a small picture of the potential of different carbon sequestration measures that we are establishing in this project. So we have a lot of measures currently proposed for catch crops and intercropping, which also take up the majority of measures throughout Germany. There's already been a lot of practice for catch crops due to the last funding periods of the Common Agricultural Policy, but there's still a lot of room for improvement of different varieties of catch crops, for example, and also for intercropping variants, especially with the view to enhance carbon in soils. And so we will have a variety of measures, up to 2,000 hectares of different catch crops being practiced in Germany with different variants on different soils to be able to evaluate this even further in the long run. Also flower strips, flower areas increase carbon sequestration. However, in the project, this takes up a minor share of measures, as this comes along also with extensification of areas, and this also needs to be taken into account when evaluating measures. And of course, agroforestry and hedges and features like these have a lot of biomass sequestration as well. So this is also a measure that is being practiced on a few farms as well during this project and being funded there. As this is more a systemic measure, as we heard before as well, this is not so widely practiced yet on a large variety of, on a larger scale as well. Altogether, if we see this for Germany, we see we could discuss that with an optimal application of these measures, we might get up to 3 to 6 million tons CO2 sequestration per year in Germany. However, if we see the entire emissions by the agricultural sector, we are nearly up to 100 tons of carbon CO2 equivalents in Germany from the agricultural sector, and including, for example, peatland, drained peatlands as well. So it's a minor contribution, but it's nevertheless quite important. It's always still important to have this in mind. Yeah, now for this toolbox, we are currently discussing a lot how to set up a holistic view for the farms of carbon sequestration measures that include the measures regional specifically, but also take into account the greenhouse gas emissions on farm level, together with costs, and to have this reflection also with other farms. So these are the 3 points we are currently focusing on. And we had a survey across the 150 farms, how they would like to use such a tool in the long run of this project. We see that both conventional and ecological farms rather work on their computer than on their smartphones or a tablet, which was interesting also to take into account for setting up this tool, and whether it is important to have like field management software included in this tool to be, for example, to have an easy use of imports of other digital layers that farms already use in their daily management practices, which was proven to be very important for farms. And we also checked whether the balances of soil carbon are more in the focus, humus balances, or rather greenhouse gas balances, or the economic valuation. And all 3 proved to be very important for farms, either conventional or ecological. So all 3 aspects should be reflected within our evaluation during this project. And if we have a look at this comparison idea, like if a farm wants to check whether his or her practice is more in line with others, better or worse, this is also an idea that farmers were happy to pick up and to evaluate during the project as well. So the most important here was also to see whether soil carbon balances especially, but also the costs occurred with the measures are in line with other farms. So the next steps during the project is now to set up this portfolio of measures and to check this for farm type and regional coverage. We currently are in the process of making the contracts with the farms over the next 10 years to really have this focus on specific measures and being evaluated also being able to evaluate the impact of carbon sequestration also in 10 years time for specific measures. So to see if we have a good coverage there, and we are currently working on field plots for different farms, and altogether we have currently 10,000 different field plots in Germany for carbon sequestration measures on these 150 farms being set under in the planning. This toolbox is very important to come up now, because there's a lot of discussions specifically also on farm level greenhouse gas accounting with a specific focus on soil carbon balances as well. And here we are working really to have a toolbox set up which is friendly to different user types and applicable also in the long run. But we already see that there's no one-fits-all solution, so we really have to are coping with the challenge at the moment where to set the focus and how we get a tool that will be that can be established in an understandable way for farms, also in with a sustainable view for the long run, but still with a high quality scientific focus. And with this, I want to thank you for your attention. And here on the slide, you also see the different partners that we're working with in the project. And maybe in a few years' time, I can also present more results already on the different soil samples that we will take during the project, where we are very curious about whether we actually enhance carbon sequestration to that extent that we have the potential that is being evaluated here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Dr. Heidecke. We are already running late, but I think we could, if you still have time, both of you, Dr. Peng had to leave us already. We could take still some questions if there are some. Yeah. Michaela.
Yeah, I don't know how whether
Böhme, my colleague.
Okay, thanks a lot. I don't know if you answered Eva's question of whether you have time, but we just take it you have time. Okay. I wanted to ask Ms. Heidecke, I think both of you mentioned this issue of permanence and additionality. So we want to know that the carbon we sequester in the soils stays there permanently, whatever that means, but probably over a longer time frame than just 5-10 years, and also whether that's additional. So I wondered, in the toolbox you presented, Ms. Heidecke, how do you deal with these issues of permanence and additionality? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot for your question. So whether the toolbox itself is more the evaluation of the impact then of the measures that are being selected. So there specifically these two, the greenhouse gas emissions and also the carbon sequestration balances will be evaluated on an average for 10 years. So that might be the permanent idea of it, but then the specific figures are then on an annual basis. However, in this project, the selection of measures, there a big discussion came up beforehand, what measures we want to fund within this project to really account for these two issues that are important for climate mitigation, and specifically for the additionality to make sure, for example, that we are currently not funding measures with organic fertilizer input. Specifically, we are not funding additional organic fertilizer that is being employed by the farm, because this would mean that we would take the organic fertilizer from another field, and there's no additional climate mitigation effect that we would expect from this specific project. But one other factor regarding, for example, leakage and displacement is also footprints, and also the relation between carbon sequestration or climate mitigation benefit related to crop yield, for example, to have a carbon footprint then for fields, but also in having more or less indirect land use changes in mind. And this is also a focus that we want to address with this broader perspective of greenhouse gas emissions in relation to crop yields and economic aspects, so to encompass this leakage rates as well. Thanks.
Maybe I can add to this about the additionality permanence. We made also another report that will be published, I hope, end of this year, where we tried to give a ranking also on the additionality and permanence of the different measures that I just mentioned here before. But it's difficult, of course, to evaluate this somehow.
One more question, also from colleague from DCZ, Dr. Ahmadjan Rose. And yeah, please, Ahmadjan.
I like most of your presentations, and I did my master's in University of Greifswald. There I get to know there is a research group working on peatland restoration. I know peatland restoration is a huge potential to sink carbon, but at the same time, we need to think about these peatlands are already drained. So water scarcity is an issue. So how do you think we can solve by revetting these peatlands, swamps, and all these areas, so we can reach our climate goal, but at the same time, we do not put additional stress on water resources in that area, especially like Northern Europe, like in Northern Germany, like Mecklenburg-Vorpommern or Brandenburg. I was told like 30% of the area was covered by peatland, but later because of human activity, most of the peatlands were drained, and then they made it into either farmland or residential area or etc. So how do you see the potential for revetting peatlands? And then if there is a conflict between water scarcity and revetting and carbon restoration, how do you think we should deal with it? Thank you.
I can start to answer, but maybe Wiebke Niether, you also want to jump in if you thank you for this question, because you really mentioned one of the biggest potentials for the agricultural sector to have more climate mitigation impact in Germany. So if we have a look at the agricultural emissions, the greenhouse gas emissions from the agricultural sector and including land use without forestry, we have around over 1 million ton CO2 equivalents from agricultural sector, including peatlands. And peatlands take up 1/3 of these emissions. So it's really a huge potential on 1 million hectare of agricultural land. So we have 16 million hectares in Germany of arable land and grassland, and 1 million is on organic farms, and these take up 1/3 of all the emissions. So this already shows a bit the scope of and the potential as well, how much we could achieve when we would be able to revet peatlands specifically in the northern part of Germany, in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern, as you mentioned, for example. We also have smaller parts in the south, but the majority is really in the northern parts of Germany. And there are a lot of programs currently being set up to address this problem of organic soils, specifically drained peatlands. But of course, it's a big regional issues as well, because we have villages, we have forestry, we have farms, all in these different areas, and everyone needs to be working on the same solution if we want to have a fully revetted area. And also from scientific research from the Thuenen Institute, we also see that we only get real mitigation impacts when we have a full revetted area. So it's really difficult as well then to further use it also for land use. Then we have a lot of dairy production as well in the north, which is high competition, of course, in this whole setting. So it's not so easy really to come up with a solution for the whole area, but there's different projects starting right now. The potential is huge, but the solution, really is harder to take. To your specific questions on water shortages, we have a lot of rainfall in Germany. So if we find solutions where we can actually use and store the water in the ground, either by dams, by different water level management issues, there is the potential for revetting. But the problem is that the land that is currently often also under intensive dairy production is not being able to be used in the way that has been used for the last 100 years. Maybe this is a bit framing the picture. In the specific project I presented, we are currently focused on mineral soils and not on the peatland issue, to also have a project that is more focusing on the other 10 million hectares that we have on mineral soils, but the potential is much, much higher for peatland revetting in the north. But I didn't want to.
No, I think you mentioned the main parts. I also see the societal consequences even more stronger than the water shortages that might be available in this land use change approach. That society, as you said, forestry or agriculture is already being implemented, and convincing people to change this area is even more drastical than the water issue. Yeah, thank you.
And there's one more question from Dr. Müller from GFA.
Yeah, thank you very much also for your presentations. I'm definitely not a soil expert, but I'm still puzzled a little bit by the first presentation and what you presented right now. So you said, for example, that there is the option for carbon sequestration for deep ploughing with sandy soils. Dr. Heidecke, you said it right in the end right now as one of the examples. And I was really wondering, as far as I understood, Professor before in the first presentation, he did not talk about the carbon balance in the end of his experiments. So do you think that there is a potential of this deep ploughing with this really clay soils, this black soils, that it really in the end stores carbon in the soil? That brings you on thin ice, I know, but I just want to somehow combine it.
I think the two measures are also a different setup. So there's the deep ploughing that we are talking about in our set of measures as well in the project is even deeper than Professor focused on it, with 30 centimeters, and it's quite highly critical evaluated also within the project, and it's not really a measure that we're currently promoting, because it's only applicable really to few soils and highly and there's not so many research examples yet that have been proven that it's also helpful in the long run. So and you really have to be specific on what soils this measure can be proven to be helpful as well in the long run. So it really is a measure that needs to be evaluated in the context of the regional location and specifically the soils there. So currently, it can be a measure with carbon sequestration, especially if you dig deep more or less the upper carbon-rich top layer into the deeper ground and more or less store this for a longer time in the sense of permanence. But you also can mess up with the soils a fair bit when practicing this measure. So we will have a few examples on this measure in the project, but not in the larger sense. Thanks.
Maybe I can add on this. I think this very deep plowing down to 90 centimeters will mean also to convert the soil conversion one time to have the more organic part in the southern, in the deeper part, and then not going on to do this deep plowing in the next year or the following years again. It's a one-time measure to increase or to bring upper soil organic matter to the lower parts of the soil and then keep it there. Another option might be also subsoiling, because this very deep plowing also needs a lot of energy, I think, for diesel and so for doing all these measures down to 90 centimeters, and then rather subsoiling, like loosening the soils in a deeper part below the plowing horizon of 30 centimeters might be another option. And then also introducing, for example, biochar. But this option of biochar also opens some more questions that have to be solved until now. So as you can see, I think from Heidecke and from me, there is still research needed in how to improve carbon storage, especially in depth below the plowing horizon.
Okay, I don't know, is there still questions from the online audience? Otherwise, I would like to thank you again and give you a big applause and for getting up so early, starting your work so early in the morning and having this lively discussion. Yeah, many greetings from China to Germany and have a nice day. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much and goodbye. Have a nice evening.
Yeah, so also from my side, thanks a lot for the invitation and further good discussions to China. And yeah, good evening. Bye.
Good.